first emergency podcast of the offseason goes to Blake Snell. Welcome into Fantasy Baseball today on Wednesday, November 27th, right at midnight, Scott. Breaking news. I am Frank Stanfield, joined by Scott White, and the rich get richer. The reigning, defending, undisputed world champion Los Angeles Dodgers have made the first big splash of the offseason, signing Blake Snell to a 5-year, $182 million deal. How can they afford this? How can they do this? Well, those Shohei Ohtani deferrals, this is where things start to get interesting. They were, just the best team in baseball, 98 games in the regular season. They won, go on to win the World Series, and now they're signing Blake Snell. So, Scott, I'll let you get into the analysis on the Snell side of things. You could throw the numbers at us and everything.
Mm-hmm.
When he's healthy, when he's on, he's one of the best. And now he's joining the Dodgers.
Yeah, he's joining the Dodgers. Can't ask for a better destination. It's I'm not really sure the venue. I'm not even sure the supporting cast matters that much, because it seems like over the past 3 years, the only one who can beat Blake Snell is Blake Snell. And yeah, when he's on, he's untouchable. We, of course, know that from his Cy Young winning 2023 season, when he had a 1.18 ERA and 1.05 whip over his final 22 starts. And I got to tell you, this past year, it was shorter, the span where he dominated, but it really wasn't any less dominant. Over his final 14 starts this past year, Blake Snell had a 1.23 ERA. 1.23 over 14 starts. After 1.18 in 22 starts the previous year. He had a 0.78 whip to go with that 1.23 ERA in 2024, in case you needed that additional number. So yeah, I mean, he's really good, it would seem. Of course, there are those rough stretches early in the season. That's been a 4-year trend now. But clearly the Dodgers weren't deterred by it. They're paying him like an ace. And I don't think we should be deterred by it either. This is what I've come around to with Blake Snell. We can wring our hands over those lousy Aprils and Mays when he just looks totally unusable. But in the end, the numbers are there, and they're definitively ace-like. Over the past 3 seasons, good starts and bad, Blake Snell has a 2.82 ERA, 1.16 whip, 12K per nine.
Ace.
That's an ace, exactly. And like, you look at the individual pitch characteristics and all the underlying stats, they support it too. Like, it's a bigger head scratcher why he struggles for those half dozen to a dozen start stretches early in the year than why he's so dominant when he's dominant. Blake Snell is just good. And hey, maybe with the Dodgers, he'll be able to avoid, I should say, that early hole. But even if he doesn't, by now, I think we can take a deep breath and trust that the numbers will be there in the end. Clearly the Dodgers are. Like I said, they're paying him like an ace. They're the marquee franchise right now. I think we should follow their lead. I have Blake Snell as a top 10 pitcher for next season, and I had him there even before he signed with the Dodgers.
Yes, and part of this deal, $182 million over 5 years, comes with a $52 million signing bonus. So the AAV on the deal is actually going to come down a little bit for Blake Snell, and the Dodgers just keep finding ways to kind of finagle their way around the luxury tax, whether it's deferrals to Ohtani, and now they're, giving this huge signing bonus to Blake Snell. And, I wonder if other teams will kind of join in doing things like that. But for now, yes, they are the leaders in the clubhouse, and they're only getting better with Blake Snell. Scott, I know it's our job to kind of find things to talk about with Blake Snell and react to this, but I think you hit it on the head, right? It really just comes down to Blake Snell. I was trying to look into like ballpark factors. I mean, I guess if there's one thing that could play negatively, Dodger Stadium was number 2 in home run park factor for the past 3 years, and Oracle Park was 30th, but I don't really think it matters. I agree. I think as long as Blake Snell is healthy and he's on, he's really just one of the best pitchers in baseball. If you needed added fuel to the fire, 7 career starts in Dodger Stadium for Blake Snell, a 2.03 ERA, a 107 WHIP, 39 strikeouts over 31 innings pitched. And you have to imagine a bulk of those have come in the past couple of seasons with him in San Diego and San Francisco. And he was going up against that stacked Dodgers team. So again, I don't really think there's anything to do with like the environment. It's just, if Blake Snell is there and good to go, he's one of the best. So,
yeah, the thing I wonder about this from a fantasy perspective is if this might allay fears that some people have about Blake Snell's irregularities, that the Dodgers are willing to take him on for the next 5 years. I don't know. To me, it counts for something, but I was an optimist. I was a Blake Snell believer in the first place, so maybe not. Time will tell. The other thing, though, is it's kind of a crowded rotation picture, right? And so maybe the Dodgers are factoring in, okay, well, yeah, we could just look at the full season stat line rather than breaking it down. Like that doesn't concern us. But Blake Snell has missed his share of starts over the years too, and so they're just kind of they're building up this stockpile of pitching for the inevitable Blake Snell IL stint, the inevitable Tyler Glasnow IL stint, Yoshinobu Yamamoto. He hasn't really proven his durability yet. Shohei Ohtani, we expect him back pitching in 2025, but we don't know exactly when. It doesn't sound like it's going to be at the start of the year. So those 4 are obviously locked in when they're healthy. But then, they got Bobby Miller. They have Dustin May coming back from injury, Tony Gonsolin.
I'm sure Clayton Kershaw will be back.
Yeah, it's a good chance of that. Landon Knack, Justin Robleski. We saw both of them make a fair number of starts this past year.
And I don't think they're out on Roki Sasaki, Scott.
No, of course not. Yeah. I mean, it's not like that's going to be a big financial burden. So no guarantee that he winds up with the Dodgers, but yeah, he could be there too. So I would say the one who takes the biggest hit with this news is Bobby Miller, because we don't know how consistent his role is going to be now, even if he's pitching well. He may get crowded out there. Maybe not. I mean, if everything lines up just right, by the time Ohtani's ready to return, somebody's going on the IL. Maybe it'll work out fine, but I don't think you can approach Bobby Miller this season with the expectation he's just going to be starting every 5th day. And definitely knocks his value down.
That I agree with completely. And you brought up a good point. The fact that the Dodgers are building up this depth, it almost allows them to run a 6-man rotation, which I'm sure they want to do anyway, with Glasnow being as injury prone as he is, and Yamamoto previously working, on a 6-day schedule in Japan, and Ohtani coming back from injury. So they have that. They probably want to go with the 6-man. And again, this kind of builds in, if they want to give guys IL stints, breaks throughout the season, this kind of affords them that luxury by adding another elite arm in Blake Snell. So I almost wonder if you just overall expect Dodgers pitchers to make less starts. I mean, that kind of feels like a given because a lot of them are injury prone or coming back from injury. But even with a Blake Snell, maybe you project a few less starts just because, they're going to be spaced out and things like that. 2-star pitchers, 2-star weeks are probably going to be hard to come by for any Dodgers starter. So,
I mean, obviously we don't know exactly what the future holds and how often the injuries are going to happen, how much they're going to line up, how lengthy they're going to be. And I would say, though, just looking at those names, so the four that are going to be there for sure if they're healthy, for sure going to be in the Dodgers rotation if they're healthy: Blake Snell, Yoshinobu Yamamoto, Tyler Glasnow, and Shohei Ohtani. Snell feels like the most durable of them, right? I know he had 104 innings this past year, but it was a groin strain that cost him that time. It wasn't arm stuff,
Which is
And
saying a lot. If Blake Snell is your most durable pitcher, it's kind of
yeah,
saying a lot.
well, but I'm just saying, obviously, 2023, 180 innings, no real health issues there.
But he's only surpassed 130 once in the past 5 full seasons. So
Yeah,
it has been a bit of an irregularity for him.
yeah,
Providing
it has. But the 2 times in his career he's gone 180 innings.
Cy Young.
Cy Young. Yeah.
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 Taking a look at the early ADP, Scott, it's 55.2 over at the NFBC. There have been 66 early drafts done so far. So that makes him the SP13, just after Dylan Cease, Cole Reagans, and Yoshinobu Yamamoto. So my guess is Snell will move up ahead of Yamamoto, at least, I would imagine. He'll get a little bit of a bump. Players just get bumps in general when they sign with a new team, let alone the World Series champs. Can you see yourself moving Blake Snell up at all? You mentioned you have him as your 8th ranked starter. You would have to move him ahead of like Reagans or Logan Gilbert. Is that something you could see yourself doing?
No, I can't see myself doing that because I already had Blake Snell as high as I felt like he could possibly go. His win potential does improve a little bit with it. Well, maybe I shouldn't even say a little bit. He has about as much win potential as you could hope for signing with the Dodgers. They're going to win a ton of games. But it does because they have that big stable of pitchers, if they wanted to give him a little extra rest when maybe someone else Snell signed with wouldn't have that luxury. I'm not sure it I feel like the advantages of him pitching for the Dodgers kind of get negated by that that concern over his innings being limited by artificial means, you know. So no, I don't see myself moving Blake Snell up higher than I have him at 8th, but yeah, 8th is where I think he should be, and I'd take him over Yamamoto. Yamamoto was the one who stood out there as being surprisingly high to me, because if you're devaluing Blake Snell over durability concerns, I don't know why you wouldn't do the same to Yamamoto, who wasn't even available for half of his first season.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. I haven't ranked pitchers yet, but I think I will have Blake Snell ahead of Yamamoto. It's, Yamamoto was great, but you laid out the numbers for Blake Snell over the last 3 years. I know it's frustrating, but when it's all said and done, we still have got ace production in that time, and he's done it over a bigger sample than someone like Yamamoto. So I think I'm going to have him ranked ahead of Yamamoto as well. Before we wrap up here, Scott, to all the Dodgers fans out there, maybe this is the part of the podcast you want to stop listening. I just have to bring it up because I'm sure there'll be a lot of chatter on the internet and the talking heads will go crazy. Have the Dodgers broke baseball, Scott?
I mean, we kind of knew this. We knew this was a possibility when Ohtani signed the deal the way he did, with so much of that $700 million being deferred so that they could bring in even more talent for his prime years. And I didn't necessarily expect them to sign Blake Snell, but I wasn't at all surprised to hear that they did. And I wouldn't it shouldn't be a surprise anytime the Dodgers sign a marquee free agent at this point. So have they broken baseball? Baseball is really hard to predict on a team level anyway. What am I trying to say? We've seen, obviously, the Yankees went through a stretch, it was a couple decades ago at this point, where it seemed like they landed every marquee free agent. And they weren't invincible. They had a really good run. They won 4 World Series in 5 years, but they were beatable. And a lot of times they were favored going in, and then they didn't pull it out. So that's certainly the baseball postseason is unpredictable. So have the Dodgers broken baseball? No. I do wonder if I mean, there will certainly be chatter about all the deferrals and everything, how if there should be some kind of limits placed on that, I would imagine. But any team could have done it, and I imagine we'll see more teams do it.
Yeah, no, I agree, man. Yeah, it's tough to say. I mean, I think a lot of people living in the moment right now are going to see the Dodgers win the World Series, and they're making the first big signing of the offseason. So there will be lots of heavy reactions to that, I'm sure. But you're right. I mean, it's not always the best team on paper that goes on to win. I mean, we had a stretch of years where it wasn't just the top payroll team was winning every year. I mean, if we're being honest, over the past couple of decades, it really hasn't been that way. So maybe they'll go on and just create a dynasty now that they have all these amazing players signed, but we'll see. It doesn't always work out where the best team on paper goes on to win. So they'll have a target on their back for sure. That we know. All right, we are going to wrap there. For anyone listening, we do have a podcast coming out tomorrow as well. Chris and I broke down his early top 50 starting pitchers. So if you listen to that and we don't mention Blake Snell signing with the Dodgers, that's because we recorded it yesterday, 2 days ago, I guess, when you're going to listen to it. So that's why it might sound a little bit weird, but no worries. That's coming out tomorrow as another podcast. We are going to wrap there. For Scott, I am Frank. Thanks as always for tuning in to this emergency edition of Fantasy Baseball Today. Please make sure to follow and leave a 5-star rating on Apple or Spotify. And Chris and I will be back again tomorrow. Bye-bye.